Don't know, don't care.
Hey, Scott.
Mr. Brainiac just locked his keys in the car. Anyone can get in my car.
Who did? You did? Just now?
Oh, Mr. Joe.
Not much. How are
You're
you doing?
talking about how you lock it up and you lock it.
I've had better weeks.
Oh, it's only Monday.
Yeah, this one kind of carries
Where's
over.
our
Okay,
police
it's
officer?
weekend. All right, fair enough.
Hey, Larry, thank you for having you guys take care of that on Fair Oaks.
Well, there should be one. Well, you could always call one. It's not like there's none around. Have somebody do it.
I called, I think, Thursday. Can we get somebody to fill in these potholes down Green Ridge
Now you've seen.
on Fair Oaks?
They're switching things around on me. They're switching around on me. I'm going to get all
Why
thrown
is
off.
this?
Mr. Hess has a slideshow for us.
Here's a way.
A slideshow about the...
Oh.
It was a small job.
Well, there was room for Justin over there.
Mount Vernon, that big one right in the center.
Well, yeah, but they're gonna be
Yeah,
There's his name.
bigger now.
We're going to confuse him.
I'll call
I hit it
Mr.
one
Fowler,
night.
that'll get him.
They've already, they'll gotta do the cement first before they do that.
No holiday.
I can't believe that.
I lock it up like Fort Knox.
Oh, boy.
Did you lock your keys in the car?
Everybody I talk to, I know.
awesome.
Well, they spray painted the cement where they're gonna.
Oh, okay. All right, we ready?
Really? You left the car door open?
I call the Norton City Council Committee Work Session meeting for Monday, May 6, 2019 to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Mr. Gaynor?
Here.
Mr. McLone?
Here.
Mr. Carent?
Here.
Mr. Towsley?
Here.
Ms. Whipke?
Here.
Mr. Pilot? Here. Mr. Kernan?
Here. Under public comment, we're going to start off with Mr. Hess, our street superintendent, who has a presentation on the street sweeper for us. Go ahead.
Mr. President.
You're welcome.
We have done some demo work on some sweepers, looking to the possibility of buying in the near future. And we wanted to show you the effectiveness of the one that we're very interested in. We took it up to Mount Vernon and also on Johnson Road, two bad areas, if you've ever been up there, and I'm sure you have, that can show us how, and I'm just going to get right into it. Anybody has any questions, just feel free to ask me anytime. We'll do some befores.
Mr. Hess, can you put your microphone just a little closer to your mouth?
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
This is all new, right?
Yeah.
Got in the big seat here. Thank you. All right. So this is Mount Vernon right here, and that shows, if everyone got a look at that, that shows a before. And this is going to be, we'll try to make this short and sweet. It'll show, it'll speak for itself. This is same gutter, different direction. And this will show the actual sweeper. I'm sorry about the angle. We could not straighten it up. But this shows the sweeper actually, it's a pretty heavy debris field. It's cut through it pretty easily. This is a regenerative, which basically means it's a big vacuum cleaner. The broom will take the material, loosens it up, throws it into a little barrier that lines it up with the head, which picks it up and takes it away. This is a Timco. I believe Mr. Gaynor was there. He could also attest to what a pretty good job it did for us.
I was in the car right behind it, so.
That's him, yeah.
So it looks good from behind, too.
Yes, 600.
Now, is that consistent with what other cities are using a Timco?
It came with some recommendations of other cities that have used it. Sometimes the manufacturers, some of the companies, they like to sell you more than you need. We were able to sit down and kind of customize all of our needs. It's a good unit, and as you can see, it does a very nice job. This particular vehicle also has a tube in the back, which we're going to plan, and we'll show that in a little bit, to clean out catch basins, because we have no program, and we really need to get going on some of these catch basins that are absolutely lodged with debris. So one of our plows took a little bit of turf once in a while, and it has no trouble with cleaning that off. And the idea is to keep this out of our sewer lines, our sewers, the catch basins. You know, when these materials go through the pumps, the station for, the barbers and controls, but it's bad on pumps too. It hurts the life of a pump to have debris like this going through it. I mean, not all of it makes it, but anyways. Preservation. The EPA likes to see programs to handle this kind of waste.
So this just does gutters, or does it like go underneath where it does the whole street?
Oh, we can move it over. You could do the whole street if you want. It's set up for the, that's where most of your debris is in the gutter. Once again, this is kind of a different angle. That shows you that long stretch that they just finished.
Mr. House,
Yes.
just out of curiosity, since this is somewhat new to me, since that is, in essence, a large vacuum cleaner, that must get full occasionally, and what is their capacity? And is that a difference between different models? Is that what we're talking about?
There probably are larger ones. I don't know how many. I'd have to check and see how many cubic feet it holds. But there are. You have to handle it a special way, and we're prepared to do that. They consider it. They really kind of call it like a hazardous waste, so it takes some special handling. But it's not anything that we can't do.
For us as a city, where does that go?
Well, we'd have to get a dumpster, and dump into that dumpster, and then haul it away.
Okay, thank you.
But every one that has that kind of a sweeping program, that's how they're required to do it. Okay, this is a still of a catch basin. I think it's on the corner of Shellhart and Fair Oaks. It is absolutely loaded with debris. It was not taking any water. This next picture, or this next film will show it. It's a wand pressure. You bust up the, it's a process. You have to bust up the debris that's in there. Those leaves were just packed in there. And then we didn't show the whole thing, but through the, just repeating that operation, that's what we came up with. Took it down to a perfectly clean catch basin.
I would assume if you have this thing and you have a regular program, then you don't have it's not this bad when you're
Correct.
continuing to do it.
We need to maintain them.
Right.
We do. And,
Right.
we would set up a program. I don't know how far we'd get the first year, but I would think after that, we could easily do the city
Right.
in a year, less than a year.
Right.
And maintain them that way. That's pretty much it, council, ladies and gentlemen. Any questions?
I just have a statement. Would it be fair to say, though, that in the wintertime, between the wet leaves and the water that does get stuck in there in the freezing temperatures, that freezes, it causes expansion that helps break up some of that catch basin from the inside, or not really?
Well, Mayor, in the cold temperature centers, it's a water system. You would not be able to run it. It's going to be temperature-sensitive operation.
I'm not talking the street sweeper. I'm talking the catch basins themselves, down in the hole where it's all in there. So, I mean, if we get it cleaned out in the fall prior to it getting cold outside, though.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because the debris in that will swell and then expand, causing some breakage of some of that material or not.
It's surely possible. You don't want to hold water anywhere like that at all.
I have several questions, if I may.
Mr. Tousley?
Does the manufacturer say how long the broom head lasts, how many hours before it has to be replaced?
Well, it's the brooms on the side. There's not a, well, there is a broom in the middle, but that's only in a really heavy debris. So it just depends on your use, Paul. It's going to depend on how much you get it out there and use it.
Do you know how much it is to replace it?
I can get that information for you.
Okay.
In my dealings in the past, it's really not that expensive. Really, it's not a bad recovery on that.
Okay, and the curb streets that you were showing us at the beginning, approximately how many streets does that apply to in the city?
You have all of Noblebrook. We're going to have Cleveland, Mass. Now a lot of curb there. Some of our bridge decks, and then all of Brentwood Estates and the adjacent. I apologize. I don't know all the ones to the east between Clark Mill. Those homes in there are all curb streets. So we do have quite a few curb streets.
And then finally, if you were to get this and put it into use, how will this affect your manpower? Do you have is it going to pull people off of other necessary areas? Are you going to need another person?
Well, I'm going to say I always need another person, but yeah, it would require a commitment of personnel to that. Yep, because it's not gonna help if we can't get that machine out there.
I mean, what are you looking at? I mean, and maybe it's too early to tell, but like hours per week this would have to run.
Well, I think initially, as soon as the weather would break, I'd want to get right on this, because I think we just really need to get these catch basins and streets cleaned.
So you think like a daily basis or several times a week?
Yeah, for a while, a daily, as many days as we could, depending on the priorities of that week or day.
Okay.
But it would be a priority if we got this machine, because I'm not going to have a machine that's, costs this much and not use it. It just wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I got one final, I'm sorry. I said that
No,
was
it's
it.
fine. Go ahead.
You had mentioned the EPA, and I don't know if you know specifically, but what does the EPA mandate or suggest or push, whatever the word you want to use?
They want us to clean up, keep this stuff out of the storm, because this all goes to streams, you know what I mean? And any of the debris, oils, all that stuff, it all collects and goes there. Any kind of program that we can use to keep the sewers cleaner, they're like leading out to streams and things, they're really happy to hear about it, and they look on us favorable. I know that would go in Josh, our engineer's report.
But they haven't contacted us to this point.
No,
or
they're not
anything.
requiring us to do it.
Okay.
It's something that they would be very happy about.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Larry,
Following up on that.
he mentioned the projects with curbs and stuff. There's no reason why this can't be used someplace other than
Oh,
curbs.
no, you can
And-
take it, yeah, and I'm sorry, I had Johnson Road out there, it doesn't have curb. Maybe
Okay.
I could really quickly just pull that up.
We
I was-
have, while you're pulling that up, we have multiple neighborhoods in the city. Even though they don't have curbs, they're contained enough to where this could be used in all of these neighborhoods.
Right.
I can.
And this is that mess we had on Johnson Road where it was
Yeah.
just everywhere. And he was just kind of watching out for the mailbox. He could have got right up to the berm and got it all. But that broom will kick it to that plate that you see in the picture. It sets it up for that broom head to, it's not a broom head, but it's a pickup tube. And it takes care of all that.
Now, is this a single man or single person operation?
Yes. Now, maybe if we do the catch basins, possibly two, but I'd like to try it with one. I think it could be done. Maybe initially two to, I don't know, I'll have to see.
And does this require a CDL?
No, it does not. But all our guys have CDLs.
But you were saying that you would have to probably hire an extra person for this, or not?
I have a guy that was interested in doing it. It's just a matter, obviously you put a guy in a sweeper, and then you're
Takes
guy
away
that's
from
doing
something else.
So it would be nice. It would be helpful, but we could make it work some.
And what's the cost of this?
The exact number, I don't have it with me. I didn't know, I can get that to you easily. But we have it dialed in where we want it as far as all the options and everything. I can get that number.
Yeah, if we could get that and the size of the hopper and the cost associated with each dump.
Yep. I think I had provided some of that prior to, and maybe it didn't get to council, but I'll make sure you have it. I'll give you some hard copies. It'll be on there, and I can cut right to those questions if you want to have me back sometime. That'd be fine.
Any type of leasing program out there or anything?
Yes, we wouldn't have to come up with they'll help us in a lot of ways that way.
If the EPA is favoring something like this, is it possible there's some grants out there to help us?
I don't think there's any grants, but that's something we always look for. I really don't think so.
And what would be the lead time for it?
Somewhere in the vicinity of 4 to 6 months. It just depends. They could have a unit. They could have a unit that's kind of right there. We cut the lead time. 3 to 4 months though is pretty good.
Mr. Markey?
Mr. Hess, I think when we spoke about this previously, we talked about there's some city-maintained culverts as well that this could be used. It can't blow the material up, but it could suck out those culverts to help with some stormwater
Correct.
drainage,
For drainage,
things like
absolutely.
that.
Yep.
Just another use for the product that we had talked about previously.
And I believe, if I remember right, the fellow that was demonstrating this said there are extensions on that hose for such as culverts and things that could be done.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I asked him about
most of
that.
the catch basins that we have are fairly shallow comparatively.
But I'm
if we
talking
need-
about, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm talking about culverts themselves, under driveway culverts. I mentioned to him that when we were talking to him that day in the garage, and I asked him if there are extensions for that hose, and I'm almost certain he said that there was.
Oh, to
Not for
blast,
the,
to
not for
blast
the,
through a possible blockage?
no, not for the wand, but for the actual suction hose. If there's extensions, and I believe that he said that there were extensions that
You
can
probably
be.
could, there's probably something that might be able to get in there and do some of that.
Right.
It's possible, yeah.
I have one more. Mr. Hess, this was before you came, so I apologize if you're not familiar, but several years back before city council, an idea was floated. I think it was called a Vactor, maybe?
Yeah, it's
And that-
a brand name, kind of the same thing.
I thought that was more for sanitary sewers. I'm just wondering is that the same thing, or is there a
It can
difference
be used
between the
for
two?
either. If we had to maintain our own sanitaries, you could use it for that.
Okay, but for the most part, they're both the same type of machine?
Yeah, it's called, I believe the unit, because the gentleman that was a salesman for this current unit was also the salesman for the last unit, was a VACOL, because he was telling me about the how it was presented to council in the past, so.
Okay.
It was a VACOL, it basically does the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
If we do move forward with looking more into this, will we be looking at comparative costs to other brand names?
Yeah, I have 3 quotes already, so I would be presenting that all to council.
Okay.
Tentatively, next year, and, we wouldn't need the machine until the weather broke, probably March. that's when we could probably get it out there, depending on the weather. And we would.
So this is not something that you are wanting to purchase this year?
No, this would be a next year.
Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Hess.
You're welcome, thank you.
Moving on with public comments, Tanya Vanderveen. Okay. To D? All right, I'll mark it right there so I don't forget. If I forget, raise your hand. All right. I know. All right. Committee of the Whole. Amend Section 258.15 Deferred Compensation Plans. Mr. McGlone.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an ordinance that will allow the city to offer 2 additional 457 deferred comp plans, including the State of Ohio plan for the employees. So I'm assuming they have a couple already right now, and there's going to be 2 more.
Yeah, currently the Ohio Deferred Comp, which is run by the state, is the program that's offered to the employees. This would just allow us to designate a couple other alternative options. It's all employee choice. No one's required to do it, but just give them different investment vehicles should they so choose.
Okay. Is this something that we probably want to do right away because that way they can get these plans into effect, or?
I mean, I think 3 readings, and I don't think there's emergency language.
There's no
in the
rush
ordinance.
for that?
Yeah, there's no rush.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, 3 readings is fine.
3 readings, fine, okay. Anyone on council have anything to say about this?
The only thing, I'd spoken to Mr. Markey earlier today, and this is for their retirement.
That's correct. It allows them to, on a tax advantage basis, put some additional funds away for retirement if they so choose.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I'm not sure, city don't have no matching on city deferred comp or anything, do they?
No,
I
the
didn't
city
think they-
Norton does not match on
didn't think so,
deferred
okay.
comp plan.
Okay.
The city pays its portion of the PERS contribution,
Right.
but not the deferred comp.
Okay. Anyone else have anything else to say tonight? Okay, with that, I'd like to put ordinance 58, 2019 on for the next council meeting, and we'll go the full 3 readings.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Do we need emergency language with that, though, so it goes into effect
No,
after
I
it's
think
passed?
we have some time.
Okay.
This is just more of a down the road kind of thing.
Okay.
Call the roll.
Mr. McLone?
Yes.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Letter B, amend Section 276.06 Veterans Credit on Civil Service Exam. Mr. McGlone.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're looking to make an ordinance to provide the veteran credit up to 20% for those qualified individuals passing civil service entrance exam. Mr. Markey, how is it right now?
Right now, there's 2 points awarded. Ms. Whipke asked me the question earlier, how is 2 points compared to 20%? And I don't have the answer for that. We'll get you that answer. Again, this is not a rush, so we'll make sure for the next reading we have that information. So right now, the revised code provides for that 20% credit. I think Norton's ordinance in the past matched the revised code, but as we're trying to encourage veteran employment in this country, the state has revised its rules, so we think it's time to follow suit and match what the state's doing in terms of that 20% credit. And it'd be for original appointments only, so it'd be for a new employment into the city, basically entry-level positions, but
Okay.
it gives them veterans who meet the qualifications an advantage on those applications.
New hires. Anybody that's
Hires.
here already, it won't count.
Doesn't count towards promotional or anything like that, yeah.
Anyone else have anything else for this?
So just for clarity, this will put us in parity with the revised code.
That's right, that's right,
The old one said it would be precedent over the revised code.
that's right,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I'm very interested as well, the difference between the 2 points and the
Yeah, I'll
20%.
find out the answer. I don't know the answer offhand, but we'll get that.
And we'll go to 3 readings on this, too.
We'll go 3 readings.
Okay.
on that.
And is there any conflict there with civil service themselves saying no, that,
Civil service, they have the ability, they believe, to adopt rules, but I think the council and the revised code can override anything civil service believes is their appropriate role for that. So, council sets the terms of employments for the city.
okay.
With that, then I'm going to put ordinance 59, 2019 on for the next council meeting. council meeting for its first reading.
I'll second.
Anything further? Clerk call the roll.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
All right, letter C, rezoning of PID 46000259 and 4604166 to MUD. Mr. Gaynor.
Yes, this is referring to the Brookside development there and other developments throughout the city where we might have 10 acres or more. I believe they discussed multiple classifications, business, housing, whatever, and changing that to accommodate any development that might arise in some areas. Anybody have anything they'd like to add?
Yeah, as I understand that, this is to actually rezone the golf course.
This is
We've
actually
already
rezoning,
set the
right. This is
mad,
the city
I mean the
initiating-
mud.
This is the city initiating a rezoning of the golf course to the MUD standards that were recently adopted by this council. Those are actually not in effect until next council meeting. So this ordinance piggybacks on the effective date of that because the zoning ordinance couldn't have an emergency clause on that provision.
Right.
So that goes into effect next Monday. So we're going to introduce the new legislation for that at that time. This is similar to the other processes we followed for rezoning a property. This goes down the planning commission for their recommendation. They have 60 days to respond. Because of that, we're hoping you can move it through a little quicker just because it's going to come back to council. We're going to have the public hearing. We're going to follow the same process we followed on other rezonings. But the initial step is to send it down the planning commission for their review.
So just to be clear for everyone, this does not actually rezone. It sends it to Planning Commission for their input, and then it comes back to us again.
This essentially acts as an application to
Right.
the application process.
Okay.
It's
In
just
other
the way
words,
that
to
our
make,
codifieds read.
to make sure they don't sit on it forever.
Well, no, I think we've talked about this before. So the codified ordinances say for a rezoning, it can be done by the property owner, by the city, or property owner by council, essentially, are the two major ways it's done. So the city can do it. In order for the city to initiate an application, it should be done by council as part of the application.
All right, and this would actually give three different types of uses, which would be residential for R1, R2, and R3, B1 and B2 commercial, and the C-Rec as well. So there could be three separate types of zoning, more or less.
Yeah,
in
so
the same
it's really, the concept is a mixed-use concept with a blend of commercial businesses and residential, yes.
So are we saying that this is going not to the agenda for next week, but to planning first?
Well, it has to go to agenda first,
Okay.
but what we're asking you is to move, if you would be willing to move the ordinance along so we can get the planning commission. It's really just the application, it's the first step of the process.
So you need us to place it on the agenda as an ordinance, pass it, send it to Planning Commission, let them make their,
They take their process.
they do their process, send it back to us, and then we go through our
That's
process
correct.
as
Then
far
you'd
as.
introduce an ordinance, schedule a public hearing, take
Right.
the 3 reads, all the normal stuff we do once it gets back to council for the rezoning.
Right.
Because-
I have a question on that
Yeah.
process. Even though we're telling them they got 60 days to do it, if they got it done and if they send it back to us in 30, we don't have to wait to 60.
No, you don't have to wait. So Plan Commission is given the right to wait up to 60 days to take an action. That's a time limit on Plan Commission. If they don't act, then it comes back to, it's treated as approved.
Right.
And then it comes back to council. So they can approve it, they can deny it, they could go in 1 meeting, 2 meetings, 60 days, not act. I mean, they could do anything. Either way, it's coming back to you, and their action's a recommendation for this council.
I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
And you're asking us to waive second and third, or?
We're asking you if you'd be willing to waive second and third,
Yeah.
just to move the process along administratively.
I do.
Right.
So I'd like to move
Hold,
it.
hold on, Mr. Casey.
Joe Casey, 3141 Monterey Drive. Why is the city changing the zoning and not the property owners?
Because the city feels that it's a proper zoning classification for the property.
Okay, thank you.
Did you say the city's the agent?
The city is initiating the application.
Okay.
Yeah. I said the city feels it's the proper zoning classification for
Okay.
the property.
Anything further? Okay. Mr. Gaynor?
Yes, I move to move it to the agenda for next Monday.
Second.
All right. There's a motion and a second to place it on the agenda for next meeting. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Letter E, wage rates for seasonal employees and interns. Mr. McGlone? Whoop. Sorry.
D.
Letter D. I put a check mark next to it so I wouldn't forget, and then I forgot.
I was just seeing if you were paying attention.
Zoning classification C1, Mr. Gaynor.
Yes, this is pretty detailed. It's a rezoning of the entire Cleveland-Maslin corridor and Norton Avenue, Greenwich Road corridor from city limits, essentially, in both directions. It's for the new zoning for just about every business that might possibly be coming into that area. And there's it's been discussed now for several months, and I think we'd like to. It's been to planning. They've made their recommendations, and I think we have those recommendations of changes that they suggested in red in this. I only have one question, really major question, or not major, but where planning desired to remove city council from quite a few spots. I just wondered why.
What was the question again?
Well, such as, let me get this paper here. Just a second. Give you an example, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. On page, I don't have a page number on this one, where it says,
Page
all
21.
C1 developments should maximize the use of natural building materials on the exterior, such as brick, stone, blah, blah, blah. The planning
Page 21 of 90 at the bottom.
or city council used to say, and they have scratched out city council
Yeah.
in several spots. Do you know
Yeah,
why?
so I think Ms. Whipke was asking me this question as well, and I think the issue there is that
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
no, the issue with the and or city council is city council doesn't approve site plans. So I think that it was initially constructed so that it would come back to, if council approved them, you would have the ability to review the standard as well. But that's really a decision that's made at the planning commission level only. So it doesn't actually come up to you, so that's why the and or city council is scratched out.
So if the city council, if the planning commission received plans for a building or development or something, and they said a certain thing about the materials, in this particular instance, there's several instances
Yeah.
throughout this, but in this particular one, if they said they were not okay with a certain part of the plans, are we saying that since this is removed, the city council could not override that and say, we're okay with it and we want it to go ahead?
Yeah, I'm saying that decision doesn't actually come up to city council normally, right? So I think the and or city council, I'm not sure where that came from. I'm not sure if we started from a different city who has a different structure, how they do it, but city council doesn't actually look at those issues. It's really a planning commission issue.
So all of these issues that
I don't know about all of them. I'll find out for you because I was not as involved as Mr. Fowler was in drafting these, so I can find out.
some of them,
Yeah.
or maybe all of them, I haven't compared them, but I wasn't, I don't think that the planning commission should have the final say on any building project. And if you have the planning commission saying, just for an example, we don't want this particular thing on this building. And the builder was building a $2 or $3 million building, and he said, well, if we don't have this thing on our building, we're not gonna build it in your city. I would think that city council would have the authority to override the planning commission's decision and go ahead with it, if it was in the interest of the city.
So is it my understanding, am I correct, that when, and the only place I see it is under architectural and building material standards and
There's
then
a height
also
one as
building
well.
heights?
Yeah.
And my understanding is that as a general course, the site plans and those types of issues never come to city council.
That's right.
So this is the code, and it's taken care of all at planning commission. It never comes to us.
That's right.
So the or city council thing is redundant because we would never know about it anyway.
I think that's why it was eliminated. I think that's why it was scratched out. I believe that's why.
Is
it was
that-
scratched
okay.
out. I'm not sure where the language came from in the first place,
Okay.
but I believe I'll find out again.
Yeah, if we could figure that out, because I mean, I assume that's why, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure Mr. Fowler will be happy to answer that question since he was primarily the
Okay.
author on that. So,
I do
or
have a
responsible for
question.
striking it.
Mr. Towsley?
I'm not for or against what I'm going to ask. I'm just curious. The limitations of it. It went from the Barberton Corporation limit back to Long Drive, and I'm just curious what was the reasoning of that. I know Mr. Dowling's here. Maybe he could.
Two separate parts.
If I could, the C1 has one limits, and the town center overlay has another, Paul. One of them,
One of them should be almost the whole corridor
Yeah,
on the
exactly.
one, and it's
One
the
of 'em,
complete
C1
corridor.
runs-
Yeah, and then the overlay is just a specific
centered section
center
of
mark,
it.
yes.
The C1 district is from the complete district, from Columbia Woods Drive here to the Long Drive,
No.
well, or to the city limits, either one in that direction. And in the other direction, the town center only runs to, I thought town center run to Long Drive. And the C1 actually runs to the city limits that you're
Okay, so
discussing.
in short, this is just defining the town center, not the C1 district, what I'm
Well,
reading.
there's
No, it's
both of them.
defining all of it.
They're both in there. If you read, Paul, let me find it here.
The part I'm referring to, though.
You're talking about letter C.
Correct.
Yeah, that defines
okay.
just the town center.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
If I might, when you get into the overlay, it's much more specific as to what can happen because it's
Right.
closer, the heart of the city, let's put it that way. So
Okay.
we wanted a lot more control on that area, but we felt that we needed to go to the town limits in most cases, outside of coming past Columbia Woods Drive.
Thank you.
Anything further?
Yes, I had a question, thank you. I'm kind of confused on this because we've had applications come in front of us for the zoning and stuff that had preliminary and final site plan on it, and then we went from one to the other, and yet they're still talking a preliminary and a final site plan in this. So have we actually established the difference between that? Or are we going to do it as, I'm still seeing two steps.
What section are you looking at?
Oh, I don't know, I wrote that down out of it. That's in my cheat sheet.
And if I-
So
if- I was gonna say-
1279.07 talks about a preliminary site plan.
And then we'll go on and we'll talk about a final site plan. But yet, some of the things coming ahead of us right now have had preliminary/final
Yeah, you're talking about the process we followed in the past.
yet.
We maybe have refined our processes to better align them with the codified ordinances moving forward. How's that for an answer?
Okay, and also, we're also going to include this other step of an architectural board.
Yep.
Review board, as well as the planning and council.
That's right.
And then at 1279.17, depicts the town center overlay district, is defined as Cleveland Maslin Road from Panther Way south to Trotter and east to west from Columbia Woods Drive to Long Drive. So that's defined in here.
Okay. So expanded types of business outside of that area with slightly expanded and not as stringent as far as the building code and how it's supposed to look.
Correct.
Does that help, Paul?
You'll also have.
It's still been moved from
regulations that are the same.
Barberton city limits to Long Drive.
No, C1 is the commercial district is going to the Barberton limits, north, south, and east.
Okay.
The overlay that's closer into town, that has been cut back some to Panther Way and to Trotter, and then to Long and Columbia Woods.
So in other words,
I
the
understood
overlay.
it on the first explanation, but then I'm reading this and it's saying the same thing.
Yeah,
So
the,
then
the overlay is all part of C1, but not all of C1 is in the overlay.
Okay, correct.
Mr. Gaynor and I went to most of these meetings, and trust me, it was very confusing. It still is, but I have a much better handle on it than I did starting out.
Yes, I do too, and I have it in front of me, but not so many pages here. Another question, I think, Justin, you could probably answer. The Architectural Review Board will consist, I know, of the mayor and city administrator and an architect, correct? As we do with zoning, I know we pay certain members, you know, for their meetings and such. Are we planning, is this a part of the plan to pay those architectural design, review board members? Or at least the architect on the architectural review board members, since the other two are already employed?
Yeah, so and Mr. Fowler probably, maybe the mayor knows, but my understanding is that the city engineer, the engineering firm that currently serves in the role of the city engineer, also provides architectural services.
Okay.
So the intent would be you have one person who at least has some architectural knowledge, like an architect, reviewing these design standards to make sure they comply. So I believe they would be paid probably their standard rate.
Okay,
But
so
I can get you an answer on that.
Okay,
a better
that
answer
was
on
my
that.
question. He is not only an engineer, he is an architectural.
Well, the firm would does it.
That's what I'm
The
saying. They'll
engineering
have
firm.
someone
Yeah.
represent them at the meeting as an architect.
Right.
Yeah, and two, if you refer back to 1255.01, establishment and terms, it talks about consisting of 3 members, including the city engineer or his designee, a city zoning official, and 1 member appointed by me.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did see that.
And
I
then 1
just,
member should be trained in the field of architecture.
that's what I was getting
Okay.
at. It said,
Okay.
trained in the field of architecture.
Correct.
And I figured that if we used the city engineer's firm, we would be paying them to participate in these meetings.
If they're willing to donate their time, we'll accept it.
Of course. Okay, that's all I really have on it. I'd like to,
Hold on, I think that there were some people who wanted to speak.
Good.
Ms. Vanderveen?
Tanya Vanderveen, 3004 Union Street. How's everybody this evening?
Good.
So, based on this, what it states, an amendment to the zoning code of the city by adding chapter, my phone is going to ring, by adding chapter 1279, section 128908 and 128909, chapter 1255. So bear with me because I'm trying to wrap my head around and make sure I understand a process, which is why I picked this particular piece to ask questions. It says that it's an amendment to the zoning code. I realize that it's an amendment to the zoning code for C1, zoning classification, which is not applicable to the issues that I've been constantly speaking about. But I've been consistently told that there can be no amendments to the zoning code. I've asked that question many times, and so
No.
I'm trying to understand why.
No, we can amend the zoning code. We just have to have it go for 3 readings, have a public hearing, and it can't be an emergency, correct?
That's correct.
Say that for me one more time.
Council has the authority to amend the zoning code, but it has to go for a full 3 readings. There has to be a public hearing, and it cannot contain emergency language.
So it's a whole nother process.
Right. I think one of the things we talked, and I don't want to take away from your time, so if you want to continue, go
Wait,
ahead.
that's okay, I'll stop the.
I think one of the things we talked about with your process was you'd asked for how do we change I-1, right? Because we said if it's an I-1 zoning classification, then the rules for I-1 have to apply. And I think when we talked about your situation, we said we'd have to change the zoning code in order to accommodate some of the changes that you wanted.
And you said that was not possible.
I think it's possible. I didn't say
It's clearly possible because you're amending the zoning code for another classification, so it can be done.
yeah, I don't believe I said it wasn't possible, but that's,
Not impossible.
yeah.
You just said that, no, that would not be done, that's not feasible, that I would have to go through another process. So
It would be
that as
another
it may.
process. It would be another process. That's true. It would be another process.
So, and I turned off my timer, so you're good.
Okay.
So so I think what we said is that if we amended, say we amended I-1 zoning, that would apply all over the city.
Correct.
However, if we wanted to make some changes to certain things in the situation over there, we wouldn't do that in the zoning code. We would do that in the whole process where we approve the plats and the plans and things of that nature. It's not that we said we couldn't do it.
Okay. Let me stop you for just a second. I just heard one of you say that city council does not approve site plans. Is that true or not true?
Okay, so when I say we,
Yes.
I mean the city. I don't mean we. When I say we, I mean the city.
Who approves the site plans? Because I'm confused, which is why I got up to ask these questions.
If it's a minor subdivision, which is a term of art, it's planning commission. If it's a major subdivision, which is also a term of art, then it goes to planning commission and then the council for approval. So it really depends on the situation. What your situation is, I don't know offhand. I'd have to look at it, whether it's a minor or a major subdivision. I don't know the answer to that offhand.
How it's classified.
What's that?
How it's classified.
How it's classified, right. I don't want to misspeak about it. It's in the zoning code. It's the definition.
Next question. These items that you're talking about with regards to D, the zoning classification, the numbers that I listed, 1279, 128908. Prior to coming to the meeting this evening, I got on your website, clicked on government, clicked on the ordinances, which takes me to a website that lists everything. Your charter, your ordinances, basically anything you could ever needed or wanted to know about the city of Norton. These are not in there. So this is new legislation, basically. That
We're
the city-
creating
That you're
this.
creating.
Correct.
To accommodate the amendment for rezoning of C1.
Correct. Did I state that correctly?
these
are new zoning regulations. We are creating a C1 classification, and we are creating the town center overlay. So they would not exist in the current code because we haven't
Never
passed
had
them.
them.
We've never had them.
We've never had them.
Correct.
So you explained very eloquently a couple of minutes ago that in changing the I-1, just off the top of my head, that would have to be applicable to all I-1 districts, correct? So I guess I'm wondering why, or I guess I'm wondering what the process that maybe I as a resident can start to present to you, where I could suggest changes that might be applicable in I-1 for people whose property would be affected anywhere in the city. When it's not applicable, then it wouldn't apply. But in any I-1 area where people who live right next to it be affected, what would be the process that I take as a resident to bring to you to make those changes so that any resident in the city of Norton that is afflicted with this potential issue would have some protection moving forward?
I'd say about the way you've been doing it.
I would say there's a number of things you can do. You could probably approach planning commission. You can approach council as you've been doing so. I don't know if you can do it by petition or not.
Yeah, I think you can initiate an ordinance. I mean, that's a,
How do I do that?
well, there's a process in the codified ordinances.
Okay.
There's a form that the Secretary of State provides for the initiation of an ordinance. There's a number of technical requirements for who can circulate, how they get circulated, how forms get filled out. You can get those from the Board of Elections. You can get those from the from the Secretary of State's website itself.
But it's very self-explanatory on the,
Yeah, I didn't
how
say
to go
that.
about it.
I mean, there's been a
Is
number
it
of people.
clear-cut
So I will tell you.
directions, like
I will
1
tell you
through 20?
historically, right? So I'll tell you historically, there's been a number of people who have incorrectly done the process. So it's not the most straightforward process.
The verbiage is very, very important.
Very important.
Okay.
And how you do it, following the process is very, very important.
Okay. Well, I'm not stupid, so I'm sure that I
Right.
can figure it out, so.
Yep. Non.
But it is in the ordinances on how to initiate that process,
That's true. Yes.
correct?
That's correct.
Under what section?
Well, I go on that website a lot, which I'm on it right now, so I'll find it for you. Are we waiting for me to answer?
No.
No.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Can you get it to you afterwards?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Can I maybe,
Mr. Towesley, go
I
ahead.
just want to clarify to make sure you understand. My understanding anyhow, was when you asked us when you were up there, you asked us if we could change the legislation in front of us applying to the industrial.
Yes.
And that's where we meant we can't change the whole code just through this piece of legislation.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? It wasn't that.
I'm trying to. I'm new to all of this, so I'm trying to wrap my head around what's applicable to one is not necessarily applicable to another, and that I'm learning what those processes are.
Right.
So
Like-
I understand, but you might imagine that when I read your
Sure.
agenda, when it was posted, the little hairs on the back of my neck, stood up, because my initial thought was, well, how can that be? Because I've asked this question of the Planning Commission many times. I've asked it of all of you. I've walked away from those conversations with the understanding that that can't be done, and yet it has been. So that's why I came tonight to ask those questions. And I just want to put on the record that I provided a letter to all of you that I gave to Mr. Towesley prior to the meeting started, so I'm sure he will circulate.
And this C1 we've been working on since September,
August.
something like that. So it's a long process.
All right. So, any further discussion regarding the C1 classification? Oh, Mr. Dowling, I knew that there was someone else who would raise their hand.
Ralph Dowling, 556 Hartzell Drive in Norton. I'm Chair of Planning Commission. And I don't know if you have the red and blue marked copies, or do you just have the red
Red.
version? Is it just red?
Just read.
Red.
Okay. Because we rewrote some of that, and the stuff that Planning Commission had was in blue, so that may not have been passed along. But to answer Ms. Whipke's question, there's a site plan form that you have to fill out when the contractor comes in. And one comment I had to that, I didn't actually write it in the text of this C1. I actually had like about a page and a half of questions. And one of them is we should be putting final or preliminary on there, because let's say in the case of the development on Clark Mill Road, that's actually a preliminary. Now, I've talked to the developer there, and he thinks it's a final. I said, no, it's not a final. I actually went back and looked, because he did not at the time have agreements on Barberton and Sewer, and so that has to go onto his final plan. So he needs to resubmit that with all the additional information on sewer lines and where they're going to run and things like that, and then that would come back to you for approval. But I did ask that we put preliminary or final on there, so that when we get into a planning commission meeting and we're making a motion to approve this, that we don't have somebody saying, oh no, I meant that to be a final.
Right.
And that's kind of why we put preliminary / final last time. But it would be a lot better if we would actually add that to our form. And I don't think those forms are in the codified ordinances. I think they're just something that I don't think you can print those out of the system. I think they're maintained by the office. So, but that's why there is a preliminary and a final. Several of the ones we've approved as final because all the information was on there.
Okay.
So.
And I actually think that the copy we have has Planning Commission's changes in there. They're just black because it was probably copied again or something. So I see some strikeouts and some underlines in black, which I assume are the things that came from Planning Commission.
There was a good bit there, a couple areas, there was like a whole page or so, because it was a duplicate between C1 and overlay C1. The words were exactly the same. We didn't see a reason to do that. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments or discussion?
Yes, I just,
Mr. Gaynor?
want to make sure that I understand what's happening here.
Mhm.
This one that we have in front of us now from the Planning Commission,
Right.
are we sending this now to the agenda for a first reading? Is this what's going to happen with this now?
C1.
I mean,
For-
that's
you mean
what
for
I
the
was under
C1?
impression
Yes.
that we wanted to do.
Yes, that is what's happening
All right, so I should make a motion to
Yes.
send it to next week's agenda
for its first reading.
for the first reading, right?
Yep.
As it is,
As it stands, yes.
okay? Okay. That's my motion.
All right.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
All right, on to letter E, wage rates for seasonal employees and interns. Mr. McGlone?
Thank you, Mr. President. Every year, we always get certain seasonal employees for the service department, and every once in a while, time to time, administration will employ a college intern to provide services for the city to enhance their educational opportunities. And tonight, we just want to set some hourly wages for these employees, seasonal employees, $9 an hour to $15 an hour, and college interns, $10 an hour to $14.50 an hour.
Any questions or discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Ms. Whipke?
These people, just for clarity's sake, they're not in the bargaining unit, and we really don't have anything written currently establishing their wages.
Correct.
Thank you.
And basically, as far as the range, we're looking for a range because depending on whether it's a first-time kid or somebody that's worked with us for several seasons and has come back, it's just some of it's getting a little harder and harder to find high school or college kids that will come out and do seasonal work for us, whether it's mowing and trimming and so forth. So a lot of the communities in the area are set at certain rates, so we're trying to be a little more competitive. Not more competitive than them, but just competitive in the market, so to speak. So we want to set a range to the point where it'll give us the opportunity then to look at hiring some seasonal employees.
In today's labor market, we need to be competitive because there's just
I know.
no one there.
Yeah, I got it. I mean, that's just it. We're trying to get, I mean, in the fight, and talking to Larry, the idea is we want to get people in that have a little bit of experience to the point where we're not putting, diesel in gas tanks and gas and diesel tanks and ruining equipment and so forth. Well, it's funny, but it's not
No,
because
right.
it's happened. And then it's like we're spending money on mowers and equipment and then turning around and looking at trying to keep the equipment that we have without getting them ruined. So.
The other thing I would note is that the auditors have requested this. In the audit this year, they asked, what's the basis for the hourly rates we've been paying historically? We've been paying them since, the beginning of time, but now they've asked, and so council sets as I mentioned earlier, you set the terms of employment for the employees of the city, so this is another ordinance we're asking for.
What have we historically paid?
I don't know the answer to that.
You know?
I don't, like $8 or $9 an hour.
Okay.
I mean, it's, yeah.
Right.
Well, minimum wage, I mean, 25, 50 cents above minimum, I think is where we were, but with McDonald's at
Yeah.
14, I
Right.
mean, you know what I'm saying? It's just, we're trying to get help that we can utilize.
Is there a reason that the seasonal help ranges from 9 to 15 and college interns 10 to 14.50?
College kids are cheap.
I guess, okay.
That's a good question about that. That was on my mind when you mentioned high school students. Is there a minimum age for employment?
I think that'd be 16.
Yeah, I would assume 16, but I don't.
Yeah,
I don't know the
yeah,
answer.
especially to use equipment. I think he's got.
16 driver's license.
I believe
Thank
so.
you.
Anyone else up here? With that, I'd like to get a first reading for this ordinance 62, 2019 for the next council meeting.
A second.
Now, with the seasonal coming up here pretty quick, is this something we gotta
So I think the auditors would like it to have it wrapped up.
Because we'll be hiring some seasonal employees
There's
pretty
that
soon.
too, and I think by the time the audit's wrapped up, we'd like to be able to tell them, hey, we're
So maybe
moving on
do a
this.
first reading and come back and
If you're willing.
something like that, okay.
it's
We'll just
not-
do a first reading
Yeah.
for this week, and then we'll decide after that.
And what's the expected end date on the audit?
I have to find out from Mr. Messner. I think they just recently started, so I don't think it's.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we have a little bit of time.
Anything else? Call the roll.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Letter F, contract with EDG to design walking paths in Columbia Woods Park. Ms. Whipke.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is not to exceed $27,500, and this is for strictly designing the walking paths in the park down here. This is what we've applied for the grant, correct?
That's right. This is CDBG grant funds that are
Right.
paying the cost of the walking path design. So it's a grant-funded project.
But is the design paid by us, or is that also CDBG?
That is the CDBG is the design. is my
Okay.
understanding.
Well, then what, when it comes down to actually building it, that's what I thought the grant was for.
Well,
Or is that a separate one?
design is part of build. I mean, you have to design to build. So I mean,
Okay,
we're
so-
gonna, as we approach building, we'll probably reapply for more CDBG funds after the design's done, and we have some other.
Do
avenues
we,
to look at
do we
funding.
need to put a rush on this, or can it go to 3 readings since it is getting nicer out? And due to the grants coming through?
I've not heard that we need to rush it. Have you heard, Mayor? Yeah, so I think we're okay. Let
Okay.
it proceed 3 readings.
And is this walk only, or is this also like a bike path, or what?
I think initially, from what we talked about, it's really focusing initially on like accessibility to like the covered pavilions over there and to get the baseball fields and some of
Okay.
the easier things. Eventually, there'll be linkages. It's wide enough you can ride a bike, I suppose, and walk at the same time. But that's the idea: is to provide access to the amenities that are already existing over there.
Anyone else? Okay. This time I motion to add ordinance 63, 2019 to the May 13th council agenda for a first reading.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Anything further?
Yeah, I just wanted to note, Mayor just noted for me, the funding award was for $40,000 from CDBG, so we'll have some funds left over to begin construction when that time comes.
Okay.
So,
Call the roll.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes. Letter G, contract with EDG for design of stormwater and road improvements for Barber Road for the 2019 OPWC application. Ms. Whipke?
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, before we get into it, is this something that, can this go to 3 readings, or do we need to expedite this?
I'm looking.
Yeah, I'm not sure when the application is due. That's just a thing, so the only thing is it's, and I know with the design, for the application, when we have it, the design, you get the discretionary points because of the design being complete, but.
I would say set it for a first read and
Yeah, we can always.
And we'll worry about
Suspend.
what
Yeah.
we need to do with that. Yeah, this is for designing the stormwater, and it's actually going to be not to exceed $55,000 to begin with. And we're looking at redoing some of the road, about 4,800 feet worth. And at the same time, going to replace a guardrail on Wadsworth Road that's been damaged. And to try and keep this, to eliminate some of the flooding. Although there's not going to be any guarantee because a lot of the stuff that needs to be done out there hasn't moved forward as yet. When we were looking at it for like I forgot the name of that project, the watershed stuff. And now there's improvements that was being looked at through this water study back 2016. But we're doing our best at trying to get that taken care of during this as well. Anyone else?
If I may, just in the attached memo, it's in here that the Ohio Public Works grant is due in July.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
So,
thank
just so
you.
you know, okay.
So we need to get this done. do we just want to go ahead and waive the first readings now, since we need to get it
Yep.
out there? Okay, I motion to add, oh, do I have to take it back?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Just
I motion to add ordinance 64, 2019 to the May 13th council agenda for first reading, and looking to waive the second and third readings as well.
I'll second.
anything further? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes. Letter H, GPD contract amendment. Ms. Whipke.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, this is for, they're actually doing observing the construction of the roads and the repairs so far. Since we've already started working on the roads, is this something we need to get passed again, waive the readings?
Yes.
This one for sure.
And just so you know, they've been out from day one.
Right,
Okay, our guy, they've been inspecting from day one for us.
okay. And this is an amount not to exceed $29,700 for the 2019 road construction. And as you're already aware, we're going to be looking to waive the second and third readings since we're already using it. Anyone else?
Yes, I've got a question.
Mr. Towsley.
Under project understanding, it talks about the 2019 road program and gives the dates April 22nd to June 30th. The only question I have, I'm assuming this does not include when Johnson Road gets repaired, and I just want to make sure that's the case, and I assume we're going to deal with that later.
That's not part of this
Okay.
project, the bidded project. So, yes, this is my understanding that.
Just the road program, the actual designated road program.
Johnson Road is separate from that. We're still,
Correct.
But we're still going to be looking at having somebody out there that knows what
Yes,
they're
for
doing
all
to
road
make sure
projects
they're
moving
doing it
forward.
right.
We've learned our lesson, and we
Okay.
want to have someone inspecting, an engineering firm inspecting on our behalf to make sure we're getting what we paid for.
And what is the total?
On this one?
29.7.
7.
All right, I thought you said 27 something.
That was a typo in the Board of Control.
No, I mean, just now I thought you
Oh,
said 27.
I think that it was 27, the other one was. This
Okay.
one's 29.7. But I make a motion to add this to the agenda for 65-2019 to the March 13th council agenda for first reading, looking to waive the second and third readings.
I'll second.
I think you mean May 13th, not March.
Oh, yeah, I didn't like March that well. Thank you.
all right. There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? I keep seeing the number 29,890.
Yeah, that's what I have.
That's the number I keep seeing, just for,
There were two different numbers, one on Board of Control and
okay.
one in
The one we have attached here is 29,890.
Okay, he's right. Well,
the
28.
proposal
And that's, what-
matches the ordinance, but the Board of Control is different.
Okay. No, he's looking at what came from the company.
Yeah, the proposal?
Yeah, we had
and
But
then,
it also says it in
I was
the,
going to say, the ordinance says
29,890, it says in here, and we've got 29,7. So we need to change that. The actual amount is going to be 29,890.
okay.
Well, what did the Board of Control approve?
29,7, I think. Or maybe it was,
Here.
there was like $190 difference.
So wouldn't this need to match that, or else Board of Controls would have
Well,
to?
we can put this on the agenda for reading, and we can look at what happened at
Sure,
Board of
we'll have Board of
Control.
Control in the meantime.
And if we have to, then we go back through Board of Control and change it through Board of Control.
For change. That's-
But the 29,890 is the number. All right. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes. And credit card policy, Ms. Whipke.
Thank you. Last year, I guess the state had approved House Bill 312 since November 30th of 2018, and they're actually looking to make sure we take everybody has more transparency, and we're taking better care of our credit cards. Not that we use them a lot, but we do have a few here. And also the auditors wants this taken care of as well. And we need to get this initiated so that we're in compliance with state law. This is, it's been mandated, so we don't have any choice as far as doing it. And all these credit cards that are around their set limits, and they are locked under lock and key in safes. So it's not like everybody just run around and have to sign. There's paperwork to be filled out, exact amounts. But that's what we need to do, is to get this on for next week's council agenda in order to get in compliance with them. Any questions?
Just wanted to note, as you mentioned, the revised code, General Assembly requires this policy. The city infrequently uses its credit cards. A lot of these procedures are already followed. They just want to have a council-adopted ordinance that meets state requirements. Everyone has to do it, so the auditors are telling us to get it done.
Anything else?
I motion to add ordinance 66, 2019 to the May 13th agenda. Waiving second and third readings. Do we need to waive here?
Yeah.
Yep, might as well put it in place.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes. Topics for the next work session. Is there anything anybody has that we need to make note of here? Mayor, do you have anything, any announcements or anything?
Yeah, I just have one. I just want to announce that the Twin Brooks Garden Club, they have a plant sale on Saturday, May 18th, so that's kind of up and coming. And that'll be from 9 a.m. till 12 noon here at Columbia Woods Park. Most plants are under $5, so come out and you have a great opportunity to get your plants for plant sale this year and help out the Twin Brooks Garden Club. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Hearing that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Adjourned.